Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy. Welcome to another episode of our Meet the Cambridge Candidate series for 2023. We're talking to Cambridge City Council candidates and school committee candidates. And right now we have a gentleman who is running for re-election, Mr. Paul Toner. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Paul, just give people a little bit about your background, the folks that don't know you, and how long have you lived in Cambridge and some of your background?
Sure. Well, just very quickly, I'm a lifelong Cambridge resident. I'm in the North Cambridge area up by Matignon High School, for those of you know that area. I went to Cambridge Public Schools, went to Matignon High School, and then stayed in the area for college and my master's in law school. Went to BU, Suffolk Law School, and UMass for my master's in education. Was a teacher in Cambridge at the old Harrington School in East Cambridge for 10 years before getting very involved with teacher unions and became the Cambridge Teachers Association president, and then later went on to be the vice president of the Massachusetts Teachers Association. And I've always been involved in local politics, working for various candidates. And then in 2017, I ran. Unfortunately, I lost by 90 votes, but in 2019, my wife wouldn't let me run again. And then in 2021, she did let me run. And I was successful on that second run. So I've been a city councilor now for one term, and I'm seeking re-election. And I've lived here in Cambridge, as I said, all my life with my wife, Susan. And I raised my daughter, Grace, and Jack here, who are Cambridge Public School graduates and off in college.
Well, let me ask you, congratulations on your last victory. And how did it go, your first term, and why are you running again?
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed being on the city council. It's important to me to be a voice for residents across the city. I think, my main focus has been on constituent services and making sure that all residents have their voices heard on the important decisions being made by the city council, whether it's on zoning or cycling or, housing issues. I want to make sure that everybody has their voices heard on these issues. And, I just really enjoyed being available to people and helping them sort through their issues, big and small.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, having served 2 years, having grown up here and having served 2 years in the council, what do you think the city is doing really well? And what areas do you think we need improvement in?
Sure. Well, I think the basic engine of the city has worked very well for the past 30, 40 years. And by that, I mean that we've had a very strong tax base, and we've had strong development that has helped keep local taxes, resident taxes low. And at the same time, Cambridge provides more services than any other city or town in the area. We're able to do a lot of things that a lot of cities and towns just can't do. Perfect example is during the pandemic, the city of Cambridge, through its own funding and sources, was able to provide services for families here in Cambridge that no other municipality was able to provide. And we have every type of after-school program, every time of out-of-school program, just, again, things that nobody else can provide, and lots of wraparound services. So I think the basic, I think the fire department, the police department, the DPW all provide excellent services. I mean, Jimmy, did you know in some places you actually have to pay to have your trash removed? And here in Cambridge,
I know.
So
I know.
I think the residents get a lot for their tax dollars, but I also think we can be doing a lot more in terms of listening to our residents and reaching out to them on the issues and making sure that we're not getting too far ahead of the population of Cambridge on some of the issues. I think there needs to be a lot better information and engagement provided to residents. And if we're going to make big decisions as a council, I want to make sure, and I realize we're not going to make everybody happy and we can't talk to absolutely everybody before we make a decision. But on the big issues, we need to do a much better job of talking to people before we make the final decision.
Right. When you say we have a very strong and robust tax base, a lot of that is commercial taxes, correct?
Yes.
In
fact, 65% of our revenues come from the commercial side, and 35% come from you and me and all the other homeowners and property owners, residential property owners.
Right. And is that commercial tax base intact? Is that maintaining its, the levels of the last few years, or is that declining or
That's
increasing?
an
How's
area
that
that
going?
I actually am concerned about, Jim. Is we I've said during the campaign and in the past, I certainly don't want to be the council that kills the golden goose. But as a council, we've passed an awful lot of laws and regulations and ordinances over the past few years that if we weren't Cambridge with Harvard and MIT and the robust innovation economy we have, people would probably take a look at us and say, I'm going to go somewhere else. And some people have. They've started to look at Waltham and Watertown and Boston and Somerville. We don't need to have all the labs or all of the companies here, but I don't want to have us price ourselves out of the market of being able to have further development here. And in addition, because of the pandemic, and as you and everybody else knows, so many people have begun to work from home. There's fewer and fewer people coming back to the office, so that's hurt our small retail businesses, our restaurants, a lot of our businesses. It hasn't happened yet, but we're kind of expecting going forward that a lot of the office buildings are going to be filing for abatements because they're not seeing people return to the office. So the city manager and his finance team are watching that. I think we have to be concerned about it and make sure that we keep an eye on that. And that's one of the things why I'm running is I want to make sure we maintain our financial stability as a city.
Hmm. That vacant commercial property. I know there's some talk. I think Mayor Wu in Boston was talking about trying to transition into a housing stock. Is that a possibility in Cambridge? Is that something that would be attractive to you and other members of the council, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as an idea, I think it's very attractive to all of us. As a non-builder contractor, I don't know the first thing about making that happen. I do when I
Yeah.
talk to my wife, who is involved with housing and construction. A lot of people tell me that's a great idea. However, there are a variety of structural issues that would prevent it from happening, or zoning issues.
Huh.
For instance, I believe bedrooms have to have so many windows and things like that, so you can't use the core part of the office building. So there are some obstacles, but maybe there's a way
Right.
for us to work around that. But I agree with you. We need to figure out how we can best use that space and help our businesses repurpose that space if it's not going to be lab and office space.
Right. And tell me about some of the other issues that your priorities are for a second term.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty simple. I'm probably the boring candidate, Jimmy. I really want to focus on working with and engaging residents, finding out what their vision for the city is, and helping them make that a reality. My concern, again, my fellow councilors and candidates, I think they're all good people and they all mean well. But I think a lot of people come with an agenda to the council and then they rush it through the council, and all you need is a 5-4 vote on many things, sometimes a 6-3 vote. And I don't think we've done a good job of engaging people on the big issues like the cycling safety ordinance, the affordable housing ordinance. We can disagree on policy, but we really do need to do a better job of making sure our people are well informed about the process that's happening. So that's number one. Number two, I get it all the time. People tell me all the time that I'm the one that calls back. I'm the one that tries to help them with their problems, and I think that's a very important part of being a city councilor is being in constant contact with the residents and helping them with their, as I said, their problems, big and small. Definitely want to try to solve the housing nut, but I'm all for affordable housing. But people, when they talk about affordable housing, have many different definitions. There's subsidized housing. There's middle income housing. There's working class housing. There's luxury housing. I really think we need to be building more housing across the board because I hope that will bring the price of rents down. There's a whole, there's some people who need the subsidized housing, and then there are people in the tech world and the business world that are, they're looking for places to live too. And I think we need to do more
Right.
across the board in terms of housing.
Right. Do you support the housing overlay ordinance?
I actually support part of it. I'm comfortable with greater height in the squares. I don't support the part where it's 12 stories across the board, up and down all the corridors in the city. I appreciate where my fellow councils are coming from, but I think it needs to be much more nuanced. Like in some places, a 12-story No parking, 100% affordable housing building might make sense along stretches of Mass Ave, for instance, where buildings are taller. But when you're talking about putting up a 12-story building next to a 1 or 2 family house on Concord Ave or Mass Ave or some of the other Cambridge Street, I think there needs to be a little more thought put into it, and especially where
Right.
under the affordable housing overlay, neighbors and residents don't have much of a say about what happens with it.
Right. So I know you support more community input into things like the affordable housing, the housing overlay, et cetera. I assume that's the same for the cycling ordinance, that you would prefer more community input. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the very short time I have left, I won't try to repeat the history. But some people
Yeah.
think for some reason I'm anti-bike. I am not. I support people having safe infrastructure to ride their bikes around the city. I do think, however, the city has gone a bit too far. I mean, we're talking about 25, 26 miles of bike lanes across the city, and we're putting bike lanes in places that some of us question whether they ever needed a bike lane. They were safe as is. And then in addition, they're not, every single time we've put in bike lanes, every single neighborhood, people have said they've been shocked and surprised. So that just goes back to the part about not engaging people to let them know this is coming, this is happening. What are your thoughts and ideas? And then there's also been the feeling that even when they give their thoughts and ideas, they're ignored. So I think we need to do a much better job in that area.
Great. We got about a minute left. How many, who, if anybody, what organizations have endorsed you? And please give us a closing statement and where people can find out more about you.
Very quickly, I've been endorsed by 15 of the unions. I've been endorsed by mass retirees. I've been endorsed by the Cambridge Civics Coalition. I've been endorsed by Cambridge for Better Government. I've been endorsed by former Mayor David Marks, former Councilor Tim Toomey and Craig Kelly, and State Rep Dave Rogers. And you can go to tonerforcambridge.com to learn more.
Tonerforcambridge.com to learn more. Tonerforcambridge.com to learn more. Paul Toner, thank you so much for your service for the last couple of years. Thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you, Jim.